You know, sometimes the loudest movements don't make a sound. The silent rise of Islam, it's happening and many don't even see it. It's not on billboards. It's not flashing on screens every minute. But it's in the heart, it's in the soul, and it's moving like a powerful current beneath the surface of society. Why? Because people are searching for peace in a world that feels like it's falling apart. Searching for truth in a world filled with noise and confusion. Searching for discipline when everything around them says, do whatever you want. And when they search, they find Islam, quietly, respectfully, powerfully. The silent rise is not about numbers alone, it's about change in hearts. People turning away from chaos, away from emptiness toward purpose. It's a movement driven not by force, but by choice. Let me tell you, faith doesn't have to scream to be heard. Sometimes it whispers, and that whisper shakes nations. It shakes the soul. The rise we're seeing is about young people questioning life's purpose, professionals finding peace beyond money, families rediscovering values, communities rebuilding love and compassion. And here's the thing, no one's handing out fame or power in exchange for this shift. People aren't converting because it's trending. They're coming because it's truth. Because in Islam, they find structure, mercy, hope, and above all, they find connection to the Creator. But listen, don't just hear me. Ask yourself, why are people quietly walking into mosques? Why are entire families embracing a faith they once knew nothing about? The silent rise of Islam is proof. When truth meets the heart, no one needs to shout. So here's my challenge to you. Are you willing to listen beyond the noise? Are you willing to look past headlines, stereotypes, social media distractions? Are you willing to open your heart to knowledge and understanding? Because if you do, you might just find something life-changing. You watching right now, yes you. This is your moment. Don't just scroll past. Don't just forget this. Think about what truth means to you. Share your thoughts. Drop a comment. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you feel that spark in your heart, act on it. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more truth. And truth, my friends, is quietly rising. You see, when something is real, truly real, it doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to stand on a platform and scream. It doesn't need fireworks or applause. It just is. And that's what we're witnessing right now. A quiet shift, a silent rise. Islam is growing, not with banners or campaigns, not with noise or spectacle, but in stillness, in sincerity. In the corners of the world where hearts are open and minds are tired of pretending they've got it all figured out. You can feel it, can't you? Not in the headlines, but in the hush. In the moment when someone closes the door after another day of chaos and sits alone with their thoughts. When the noise fades and they ask themselves, is there more to life than this? That's where the change begins. That's where Islam steps in, not with a shout, but with a whisper that cuts deeper than any scream ever could. Now listen, movements that change the world don't always start with revolutions. Sometimes they begin in the silence of a prison cell. In the tear-stained pages of a book someone reads at 2 a.m., in the stillness of a soul that finally says, I'm ready to know the truth. That's what's happening. Across the world, people are choosing Islam not because someone forced them, not because it's trendy, not because it's easy, but because it answers something no one else could. There's power in that kind of shift. A quiet, steady power that doesn't fade when the lights go off. That's the kind of power that builds legacy. That's what Islam offers, not just beliefs, but a foundation. A code, a direction, and that direction is pulling people in. Not because it demands attention, but because it deserves it. But here's the beautiful part. You don't need to be born into it. You don't need a certain skin tone or a certain passport. You don't need a stage or a microphone. All you need is truth in your heart and courage in your step. That's why people from every race, every background, every walk of life are coming to it, quietly, consistently. Because truth, it doesn't discriminate, it doesn't beg, it just is. I've met people, atheists, agnostics, ex-Christians, ex-Hindus, even people who never believed in anything, who came across one verse, one prayer, one moment that made them stop, made them listen, made them change. And they didn't blast it all over social media. They didn't make a show out of it. They simply started walking a new path, quietly, strongly, purposefully. That's what I mean when I talk about the silent rise of Islam. You don't have to see the numbers to feel the momentum. You don't need a study or a statistic to know that something big is happening, because the evidence is in the transformation, in the way people carry themselves, in the way their lives shift from chaos to clarity, from fear to faith, from drifting to discipline. And make no mistake, this isn't just a story happening far away. It's happening in your city, your neighborhood, maybe even in your own circle. The coworker who seems more peaceful lately. The classmate who suddenly found direction. The friend who says they've started praying. That's the rise we're talking about. Quiet, respectful, unstoppable. And maybe it's happening in AU. Maybe that curiosity in your heart, that voice that's been asking questions, isn't random. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's your turn to pause the noise. Turn down the distractions and ask yourself, what am I really searching for? See, we live in a time where silence scares people, where stillness feels awkward. But the truth isn't afraid of silence. In fact, the truth thrives in silence. That's why Islam is rising, not through chaos, but through clarity. Not through popularity, but through purpose. So I'll ask you now, straight from the heart, what is guiding your life? What's anchoring you when the storms come? Because when the fame fades, when the followers stop liking, when the world gets quiet, all that's left is what you believe. And I want you to know, there's a truth rising in the silence, waiting for you to notice it. If any of this stirred something inside you, don't ignore it. Let it sit. Let it grow. And if you've got questions, if you're curious, don't just keep scrolling. Drop a comment. Ask what's on your mind. Share this with someone who's been on the edge of change. Because this isn't just about belief. It's about legacy, about purpose, about finding the path that speaks even when everything else is silent. And the most powerful journeys, they often begin with the quietest steps. You ever notice how loud this world has become? Everybody's talking, everybody's posting, everybody's chasing something, money, fame, validation. And yet, despite all that noise, people are feeling emptier than ever. You see it in their eyes. You hear it in their voices. Folks got houses but no homes. They've got followers but no real friends. They've got a schedule full of activity but a soul starving for peace. And so they start searching, not out loud, not on a billboard, but deep inside. Late at night, when the phone's on silent and nobody's watching. That's when it hits them. Something's missing. That's when people start asking questions they've been too busy to face. Why am I here? What's the point of all this? Why, with everything I thought I wanted, do I still feel so incomplete? See, that's the moment where everything changes. Because when life strips you down to those raw questions, it doesn't matter what car you drive or what job title you have. It doesn't matter what your social status is. All that matters is finding something real, something that actually brings peace. And that's where Islam steps in, quietly, softly. But powerfully, Islam isn't out there screaming for attention. It's not trying to sell you a dream you can't reach. Instead, it speaks to that restless part of you that says, there's got to be more to life than this grind. And when people hear it, they don't hear condemnation, they hear hope. They hear about a God who knows them, who loves them, who has given them a path to live with purpose and dignity. And you know what's beautiful? People don't come to it because someone forced them. They come because it makes sense, because it answers questions nobody else could. People find structure, discipline, forgiveness, and direction. It's like a compass in a world where everyone's spinning in circles. And it doesn't matter if they're rich or poor, young or old, successful or struggling. That search for peace is human. It's in all of us. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've met people who had it all by society's standards, big homes, fancy cars, high-paying jobs, but they tell me in a whisper, I feel empty inside. And then one day, they hear a verse from the Quran, they see someone bowing in prayer, or they have a conversation with a Muslim co-worker who lives with quiet integrity, and it stops them. It makes them wonder, what's different about that person? Why do they have a peace I can't seem to buy? That curiosity turns into reading, that reading turns into learning, and that learning turns into something life-changing. Before they know it, they're stepping into a mosque for the first time, or they're whispering a prayer they never thought they'd say. And when it happens, it doesn't feel like hype. It feels like it's home. You see, Islam gives people a reason to get up in the morning with purpose. It gives them an anchor when life gets rough. It gives them a way to live where their soul isn't just surviving, but actually thriving. And that's why people are finding peace in it. Because it answers that search, that hunger that no amount of money, no relationship, no social media likes can ever fill. And maybe you feel it too. Maybe you're listening to this right now and thinking, yeah, I know that emptiness. I know what it's like to look successful but feel broken. I know what it's like to be surrounded by people but still feel alone. If that's you, then don't ignore it. Don't bury it under business or distractions. Take a moment and ask yourself, what am I really searching for? And am I brave enough to go find it? Because life is short and peace is priceless. And right now, as quiet as it may seem, people all over the world are finding it. Real, lasting peace in Islam. And that's why this movement, this rise, is happening without noise, without force, but with hearts that finally found what they've been missing all along. If any of this resonates with you, don't let it just pass by like another video. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, share your story. Maybe you've already found your peace, maybe you're still searching, or maybe you're skeptical and want to know more. That's okay. Start the conversation. You never know. Your next step might just change everything. Choice. That's what this is really about. People look at the rise of Islam and they want to put it in a box. They want to say, oh, it must be pressure. It must be influence. It must be fear. No, it's not. It's choice. Pure and simple. People are walking into this faith because their heart, their mind, their soul tells them, this is where I belong. Nobody's knocking on their door saying, you better do this or else. Nobody's holding anything over their head. There are no sales pitches, no contracts, no hidden agendas. It's people, regular people, who wake up one morning and say, something about this path speaks to me. And that is powerful, because when someone chooses something freely from a place of truth, it becomes a part of them. It's not an act of fear. It's an act of freedom. And here's the thing. When people choose Islam, they don't choose it because it promises them riches or status or applause. They choose it because it gives them peace in their heart. It gives them purpose. It gives them answers. People from every corner of the globe, from every walk of life, every language, every culture, they're making that choice quietly, humbly, because they found something real. I've spoken to people who came from backgrounds you wouldn't expect. Atheists, scientists, artists, soldiers, teachers, even people who once said, I'll never believe in anything. And yet something happened. A moment. A conversation, a verse. And it planted a seed. They went looking, reading, asking questions. Nobody forced them. Nobody bribed them. They made the choice because deep inside they wanted a life of meaning. And when you see that transformation, it's beautiful. People cry, not because someone pressured them, but because they finally feel at home. People smile differently, live differently. Why? Because it's their choice. When you choose something freely, you fight for it, you cherish it. That's why this silent rise is unstoppable, because it's not built on compulsion. It's built on conviction. You ever see someone walk into a room and they've just found their purpose? They stand taller, they speak softer, they live clearer. That's what's happening here. Islam is giving people that kind of clarity, not by force, but by invitation. An invitation to learn, to question, to understand. And that's what makes it so powerful. Because when a person chooses with their heart, no one can take it from them. Now, I know there's a lot of noise out there. People saying Islam is growing because of pressure or politics or some kind of agenda. But let me tell you, when a young man in London reads the Quran and breaks down in tears, that's not politics. When a single mom in New York puts her forehead to the ground for the first time, that's not pressure. That's choice. That's love. That's truth. And maybe you're listening right now thinking, well, what if I'm curious? What if I have questions but I'm scared to look deeper? Listen to me. Questions are good. Curiosity is good. That's how every journey starts. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to commit to something you don't understand. Just learn. Explore. That's what people all over the world are doing. Quietly, freely, at their own pace. See, choice has power because it lasts. When someone forces you to do something, you'll do it as long as the pressure's there. But when you choose it yourself, no one can shake it. That's why people are embracing Islam and sticking with it even when it's not easy. Because they chose it, and that choice came from love, from truth, from their soul crying out for something bigger than themselves. So maybe, just maybe, that's where you are right now. Maybe something in you has been whispering, there's more. There's something you're meant to know, meant to see. Don't ignore that voice. Don't let fear or pride or noise drown it out. Take a step, even a small one. And if you feel that pull, if you've been wondering why so many are making this choice, don't keep it to yourself. Talk about it. Drop a comment. Share what's on your heart. Because the truth has a way of finding you, but you have to choose to listen. Change always starts small, doesn't it? Before the numbers, before the charts, before anyone's calling it a trend, you see it in the eyes of one person. One life transformed. That's how real movements are built. One heart at a time, one soul at a time. See, when people talk about the rise of Islam, they want to measure it like a statistic, like it's just about how many people check a box on a survey. But this isn't about numbers. It's about impact. It's about the shift that happens inside someone before anybody else even notices. That's the real rise. It's personal, it's intimate, it's powerful. I've met people who were at the end of their rope, broken by life, tired of running, feeling like they had nothing left to hold on to. And they found faith. They found a way to stand back up, to rebuild. Not because someone shouted at them, not because someone pushed them, but because they found a connection that went deeper than all the noise and pain. And let me tell you, when one person changes like that, it doesn't stay hidden, it ripples. A parent finds peace and suddenly their children grow up in a calmer home. A young man finds purpose and his friends see him walk differently, talk differently, live differently. A woman finds hope and she becomes a light in her community. That's how this thing grows, not by shouting, but by shining. Because when your heart shifts, your life shifts. And when your life shifts, people see it. They might not understand it at first, but they feel it. They can't deny the peace you carry, the discipline you show, the kindness you give. That's why this rise is unstoppable, because it's not just happening on paper, it's happening in as people. And here's what makes it even more powerful. It's lasting. This isn't some quick emotional moment that fades when life gets hard. This is transformation at the root. People aren't just saying some words and going back to the same life. They're changing how they live, how they think, how they treat others. They're dropping bad habits. They're repairing broken relationships. They're living with integrity in ways they never did before. That's why it spreads, because people see something real, something solid, something they want in their own life. I've seen people who used to live in chaos, fighting, drinking, struggling to even care about tomorrow, become peaceful, focused, generous. I've seen people who carried so much anger turn into people full of patience and love. That's impact. That's the kind of change you can't fake. And maybe you're wondering, why? Why would someone give up their old ways, change everything about how they live, and embrace something new? It's because when you find something true, something that speaks to your soul, you can't keep living the same way. You can't go back to who you were, because now you know better. You know there's a higher purpose, a greater reason to wake up every morning. This is why the silent rise is so special. It's not being driven by hype or force. It's being driven by people who've been changed from the inside out. And change like that, it's contagious. It draws others in. Because everybody is looking for something real, and when they see it, they know it. Maybe that's why you're still listening right now. Maybe you've been feeling like something's missing, like something's got to change in your life. And maybe this is your moment to pause and think about it. If people all over the world are finding peace, finding purpose, finding truth, why not you? If you're feeling that pull, don't push it away. Let yourself feel it, think about it, and then talk about it. Drop a comment, share your thoughts. Ask the questions that have been on your mind, because change, real change, always starts with one heart, one choice, one moment of honesty. And who knows, that moment might be right now. Misconceptions, yeah, we all know they're out there. People hear Islam, and their mind goes straight to headlines, stereotypes, whatever story they've been fed. And for a long time, that's been enough to keep people from looking deeper. But here's what's happening now. People are no longer satisfied with surface-level noise. They're checking for themselves and what they're finding. It's breaking those misconceptions wide open. See, when you actually sit down and talk to someone who lives this faith, when you see how they carry themselves, when you feel the peace in their voice, it's different from what you've been told. People expect harshness, but they see compassion. They expect division, but they see unity. They expect oppression, but they see balance and dignity. That's powerful because truth doesn't need defending. It just needs to be seen. And that's exactly what's happening. People are walking into mosques not because somebody dragged them there, but because they're curious. They're tired of taking someone else's word for it. They want to see it for themselves. And what happens? They meet a community that welcomes them. People who live with discipline, kindness, and a sense of purpose they can't quite put into words. They realize Islam isn't this angry, foreign thing the world made it out to be. It's faith, it's family, it's structure, it's mercy. I've seen people literally say, I thought Muslims hated everyone who wasn't like them. But then I met one, and they treated me with more respect than people I've known my whole life. That moment, when the narrative in their head collapses under the weight of real experience, is when hearts start to shift. That's when people start saying, maybe I had it wrong. Maybe there's something here I need to understand. And what's beautiful is it's not a debate that changes them. It's not some big argument. It's simply the truth lived out day by day in people's lives. A co-worker who doesn't cheat or lie, who prays quietly in the corner and still shows up with a smile. A neighbor who helps without expecting anything back. A stranger who forgives when the world says get revenge. That's what breaks misconceptions, not words, but example. And when those walls fall, people become open. They start reading, learning, asking questions. And the more they do, the more they realize Islam isn't about what they feared. It's about peace. It's about connection to God. It's about building yourself into someone better, someone purposeful, someone who adds to the world instead of taking from it. That's why the rise of Islam is so quiet and so powerful. Because it's not about winning arguments on social media. It's about winning hearts through real living, through kindness, through truth. People see the stereotypes crumble, and in their place, they find something that feels whole, something they didn't even know they were looking for. Maybe you've felt that too. Maybe you've had an image in your head, and something in you has started to question it. Maybe you've met someone or seen something that made you stop and think, wait, maybe there's more to this than I thought. If that's you, don't ignore it. Lean into it. Look deeper. Because understanding starts where assumptions end. And I'm telling you, if you've got a question, ask it. If you've got doubts, say them. That's how clarity comes. Don't stay stuck in what you've been told. Go see for yourself. And if any of this speaks to you, if you've seen those stereotypes fall apart in your own life, share your experience. Drop a comment. Share what changed your perspective. Because every time a misconception breaks, truth has room to grow. And that's how hearts change one by one. Young people, they're not just the future, they're the now. And right now, so many of them are leading this change, this quiet movement towards something deeper, something real. You see, the world told them, chase success, chase fame, chase pleasure, and what did they find? Stress, anxiety, an emptiness you can't fix with likes or followers. That's why you see so many of them looking for something different, something lasting, something that doesn't fade when the Wi-Fi goes out or when life knocks them down. And that's where Islam speaks, not with flashy marketing or trendy slogans, but with something far more powerful, truth and purpose. Young professionals, students, athletes, artists, they're stepping back and asking, is this really all life has to offer? Is this what I'm meant for? And when they explore Islam, they find structure, discipline, peace. They find a rhythm to life that says, you are more than your job. You are more than your phone. You are more than your mistakes. I've met young people who had everything the world said they needed. Big paychecks, freedom to do whatever they want, social media fame. And yet, they told me, geez, I'd feel lost. I feel like something's missing. And then, slowly, they start learning. Maybe they read a verse of the Quran. Maybe they watch someone bow in prayer with humility and focus, something so rare in a noisy, distracted world. Maybe they meet a Muslim who carries themselves with kindness and calm, and they start wondering, what do they have that I don't? That spark of curiosity, that's how it starts. And what's amazing is how fearless these young people are when they find something real. They don't care what the world thinks. They don't care about trends or opinions. They're willing to stand apart because they know this is truth. This is peace. This is what I've been looking for. And when one young person changes, it ripples out. Their friends see it. Their families see it. Suddenly, a whole circle of people is curious because truth is contagious when it's lived out. And don't think this is just happening in one country or one culture. It's happening everywhere. Universities in the West, towns in Africa, cities in Asia. It's quiet, but it's powerful. Because young people, they're seekers. They're unafraid to question, unafraid to break from what everyone else is doing. And that courage is fueling this rise. You know what else? Young people today have seen too much fake. They've seen leaders who don't lead, influencers who don't live what they post, systems that promise happiness but deliver stress. So when they find something authentic, something that doesn't depend on a camera angle or a filter, it hits different. Islam isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about striving to be better, to grow, to connect with something bigger than yourself. That message resonates in a generation tired of chasing illusions. And maybe you're young watching this right now. Maybe you know that feeling I'm talking about. You look around, and it feels like everyone's racing, everyone's posting, everyone's trying to keep up. And yet so many feel empty, anxious, burnout. Maybe you've been feeling it too. If that's you, don't ignore it. Because that emptiness, it's not weakness. It's your soul telling you there's more to life. And here's the truth. You're not alone. There are thousands, even millions, of young people waking up to the same reality, taking the same quiet steps toward peace, purpose, and faith. It's not loud. It's not trending on every feed. But it's real and it's growing. So I want to hear from you. Have you felt that pull towards something deeper? Have you seen a friend or someone close to you find their peace in faith? Drop a comment, share your story, or if you've got questions, ask them. Don't be afraid to start that conversation, because you never know who might be looking for the same answers you are. Truth is powerful, isn't it? And here's the thing about truth: it doesn't need to yell to be heard. It doesn't need to fight for attention. It doesn't need to go viral to be real. Truth can whisper, and that whisper can move mountains. That's what we're seeing right now with Islam. It's not storming in with noise or spectacle. It's speaking softly, but it's changing lives in ways you can't ignore. See, a lot of people think you need hype to make an impact, like you've got to shout louder than everybody else to be noticed. But the rise of Islam, it's proving something different. It's showing us that real change doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be a true. People are hearing that quiet message of purpose, discipline, and peace, and it's cutting straight through the chaos of modern life. And it's not flashy. It's not trying to compete with the noise of the world. It doesn't have to, because when you hear something that speaks to your soul, you don't forget it. You don't need it to scream. It sticks because it's real. That's the kind of truth Islam brings. That life isn't just about chasing what's temporary. It's about building what lasts. That your worth isn't in what you own, but in who you are before your Creator. I've seen it over and over. People hear one verse, one prayer, one sincere conversation, and it changes them. Not because someone debated them into it, not because someone convinced them with clever arguments, but because truth hit their heart. And when truth hits your heart, it doesn't need a microphone. It doesn't need an audience. It just sits with you quietly until you can't ignore it anymore. And here's what's powerful: people respect quiet strength. They respect authenticity. In a world full of noise and performance, quiet truth stands out. It's rare and it's beautiful. That's why this movement is growing, because people are tired of being sold dreams that don't last. They're tired of filters, fakes, and facades. They want something real, something grounded. Islam offers that, and people are responding, not with applause, but with action, with life changes, with devotion. You know what else? Truth lived out speaks louder than truth shouted. A neighbor who helps without expecting anything in return, a co-worker who's honest even when nobody's watching, a stranger who forgives when everyone else says seek revenge. Those quiet acts are louder than any speech. And those small moments, they plant seeds in hearts. They make people curious. They make people think, maybe there's something different here. Maybe I need to find out what it is. Maybe you've experienced that too. Maybe you've seen someone live with that kind of quiet confidence, that peace that can't be faked. And maybe you've thought, what's their secret? How do they have that? What if that peace you admire is truth quietly at work? So I'm asking you right now, are you listening? Not to the loud voices trying to distract you, but to that quiet voice inside, the one that whispers when things get still. Because sometimes the thing that can change your life isn't screaming for your attention. Sometimes it's waiting for you to slow down and hear it. If you felt that pull, don't ignore it. Explore it. Ask about it. And if this message resonates with you, if you've ever had that moment where quiet truth hit your heart, drop a comment. Share what it felt like. Share what you found. Because sometimes your story can be the quiet voice someone else needs to hear. You know, when we look at everything happening, the quiet conversions, the misconceptions falling apart, the youth stepping up, the peace people are finding, it all comes down to one thing: truth rising, silently but powerfully. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're still here listening right now. Something in you knows there's more to life than what you've been told. Something in you is searching, and that's the beauty of it. Because every great change starts with a question. Why am I here? What am I really chasing? Where do I find peace that lasts? If those questions are stirring in you, don't push them aside. Lean into them. Explore them. Because the world is loud, but truth speaks softly. And if you listen, it can change everything. So I'll leave you with this. Are you willing to pause, to look deeper, to listen to what your heart has been whispering? Because this silent rise we're talking about, it's not just out there. It could be happening in you right now. If this message moved you, share it. Drop a comment. Tell us what you're thinking, what you're feeling. Someone out there might need your words. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because we've got more conversations, more truth, and more hope to share. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more truth. And truth is rising quietly, powerfully, right here, right now.